The Powah mod is all about generating power in Minecraft, and it gives us a good variety of ways to do so. If you're starting to look into the mod, then one of the first things you're going to want to actually make to start making power in Powah is a Furnator. And that is what we see here before us. So you can see here we've got a Furnator starter, a basic, a hardened, a blazing, a niotic, a spirited, and nitro. We're going to obviously start off with the starter one here in this tutorial. You're going to need some dielectric paste, basic capacitors, which are tiny, a dielectric casing, a furnace, and that's it. Basic capacitors basically need, the tiny ones are just broken down from basic ones, which are made with dielectric paste, iron, ingots, and redstone. And it's pretty much the same with the casing, where you need to make dielectric rods with iron bars and the paste again. Horizontal can be changed to vertical and vice versa in the crafting table as shown. And that's pretty much the basic materials that you need in Powah to get started. So we put all of this together, we make our basic starter Furnator. Even, the actual basic one as well is just a little bit more expensive, as well as you can see here. It's not really until hardened that things get more complex, but I will be showing that in different parts of my tutorial series for Powah. So we've made our starter one. Here it is, the Furnator, and we can see it's pretty simple looking. If we right click on it, we can go inside. You can see it's storing 0 energy at the moment. It can generate 20 forge energy per tick, and we can extract 80 forge energy per tick here as well. There is also this bit in the middle with a carbon slot. There's the sides and also redstone. So basically, this is actually going to burn down anything that is combustible from a solid material, like coal and wood, etc. Let's, for example, put a block of coal in here. You can see the carbon slot fills up as it kind of melts down the carbon to turn it into forge energy. And you can see here, the stored amount of forge energy is going up. We can also add items in here to passively charge them if we would like. We can ignore or make it only work on redstone signal. You can see if I put redstone signal on, it's not making any. If it's off, because the redstone signal, well, there isn't one, it's making energy, or we can just completely ignore redstone altogether. We can also say on the west side, do we want to turn this off? Do we want to extract energy from here, etc.? And all we can do is turn them off or extract, because this is all this machine can do. We can use our energy cable starters. Again, I will make this available in my Powah tutorials. We can extract this out of the back, for example, and maybe we're going to put it into an energy cell, which is also makeable with Powah. Let's say I want to turn that off. I can go to the back. And now you can see here, as I've turned all the faces off, that the energy is going up in here and it is no longer being extracted. If I turn the faces back on, you can see the power is being drained, because now it is actually letting it pipe out of those faces into, wherever you are sending that energy. And that is how we use the Furnator in Powah. In the Powah mod, there are a lot of different cables we can use to transport our power. So lots of ways to transport power in the Powah mod. We start off with these here, energy cables starter, and it goes up to basic, hardened, blazing, niotic, spirited, and nitro. To make the basic ones, it's very simple. You're going to need some dielectric rods, which are again made with dielectric paste, and a basic capacitor, which again is dielectric paste and some basic Minecraft materials. The basic one is going to be able to transport 2,000 forge energy per tick. Then it's 5k, 20k, 50k, 200k, and 1,000,000 per tick at the highest ones. Once you get to blazing, hardened, my apologies. Once you get to hardened, you are going to need to start using other materials like energized steel. Another way you can actually do it is by using a hardened capacitor, which again is using energized steel, and you can actually use some of the more basic items. So 2 basic cables can then be upgraded into 6 hardened. And then you can do the same with hardened into blazing, and that continues on until you get the best ones. So you can upgrade them. These can be placed like this, connecting together to transport energy. Different ones are not going to connect, which can be a good or a bad thing, depending on the situation you are in, and we can also connect them to machines, as you can see here. Now, what you can see on here is two little arrows. This means that we can input and output of this machine with this cable. If I right click it with my wrench, you can see the arrows are pointing into the machine, meaning they will push energy into this machine. Or we can say only extract from the machine, where they will only take power from it. We can disable it completely from the machine, or we can right click again to make it extract and input into this machine. And that is how we are going to use cables in the Powah mod for Minecraft. If you have enjoyed this video, do of course make sure to watch the rest of my Powah tutorials. If you don't want to use solid energy or fuels like coal, etc., to make power early on in the Powah mod, you can use something here called the Magmator. Now, just like all of the other machines in Powah, it does have many versions being upgradable. As you can see here, it goes up from starter to nitro. What we can basically do here is pump in lava to the Magmator to make energy. And we can also charge things up here and change where we want things coming in from. I'm using a tank here from Mechanism, and I'm pumping it in with, again, a pipe from Mechanism. You can pump this in however you like. And you can see if there's lava in there or not by the lava in the top. You can then attach an energy cable to actually pull this out. Let's say we want to pull it out into this energy cell, and you can see that the energy is going up in the energy cell as we burn lava in the Magmator. This also can be used with redstone, ignoring it on or off, of course, and we can change which faces we want to extract energy from in the Magmator as well. And that is a pretty simple and early game machine you can use to make power in, of course, the Powah mod. What we have in front of us here is the Thermo generator from Powah, obviously. As you can see here, the basic one on the left is making about 0.5 thousand forge energy per tick. This one is making about the same. And this one has already filled up since I started the video. What this does is it will actually make power from heat sources placed under it. However, it will need a coolant. So I am pumping in, using the Mechanism mod, water into the back of it. If we go in here, we can see all we see inside the actual interface is the water. Now, maybe you're playing a different mod pack that has other heat sources included, or maybe you just want to see what heat sources can I use. If I actually hover over the Thermo generator in my inventory and press U, assuming I have just enough items included, and I go to heat sources, you can see here the temperature of a magma block is 800, lava is 1000, and a block of blazing crystal from the Powah mod is 2800, meaning this is the best item to use if you would like to use Thermo generators. Lava is a bit annoying as it kind of flows, so you can't really have it in such a stable environment that you could have these two where they're solid blocks, if that makes sense. It can get a bit messy depending on how you want this set up. You could, of course, have a large array of these like this, all with lava under them, and it'd be fine, but maybe you want it more like this and the Thermo generators on top, and lava wouldn't really work for that. We can also press U on here and go to coolants, and you can see the only available coolant is going to be water. So you do need to pump water in to cool down the Thermo generator so it can provide power. And just like other power generators, we can add cables here and change the output sides, turning them on or off if we want to output our electricity, and also change it with redstone as well. But these are the Thermo generators from Powah. And just like all types from Powah, we can make upgradable versions as well, using different materials from the mod. If you want to be economically, environmentally conscious when using the Powah mod, you can actually use solar panels, which is of course a fantastic renewable early game way of making power in the Powah mod, funnily enough. You will want to set some cables underneath like this. You can obviously, below or above, it's entirely up to you. And we can put some solar panels on top here. The good thing about this is you can make a massive array of these. You know, I could just fill all of this up with a massive grid of solar panels as I like. And they actually look really nice together as well, like this. And each individual one, as you can see, in the daylight will be filling up on its internal battery for power, or forge energy. So it's making 80 forge energy per tick. Everything in mechanism as usual. Sorry, not mechanism, in power. Been doing too many mechanism tutorials. In power is going to make more and more the higher you go. So we've got basic making 60, solar panel hardened making 100, 200, 400, 800 and 2000 forge energy per tick on the highest ones. So you can go really high and make a lot of power just using these simple solar panels. Looking at actually extracting the energy from them on the faces here, you can see all of them are automatically off apart from down. You can only extract the power from them on the bottom. And I would just simply hook up an energy cell to actually put all of the power from the solar panels and be able to store it. With just these starter panels here already, you can see how much energy I'm already storing up. If you've already started making power in the Powah mod for Minecraft, then maybe you're now looking how to store that power. And the way we're going to do that is using an energy cell, as you can see here. There are different storage types where starter starts at being able to store 1 million with a max import and output of 1000 forge energy per tick, going all the way up to 2 billion storage with an import and output of 2 million per tick on the highest nitro version. We can see there's faces up here, and we can say, do we want to extract, receive, or turn off that face completely? Meaning, if I put a cable on top of this, you know, do I want to be able to receive and extract power from the top? Am I only extracting power from the top, or do I want to receive power from the top? You can see here it is completely empty when grayed out, and it does tell you in numbers how full the item is, and we can also control what it does, or if it's going to work on redstone signals or not. Let's then look what happens when we start powering it up. As you can see here, power is now flowing into the machine, showing how much is in here out of the 10 million we can have. And that is coming in from this machine, which is draining of its energy to store it. And you can also see that as the power fills up, you will see this red kind of progress bar coming up, the fuller and fuller it gets of energy. And that is how you use the energy cell in Powah. To get a bit further into the Powah mod, we are going to need to make an energizing orb. Specifically, anything after the hardened tier that you see here, including the hardened tier, will need an energizing orb to make. And the first thing we're going to make with the energizing orb is going to be energized steel. When we look at it here in just enough items, you can see there's the orb on the side and these rods as well. So what the hell do we actually do here then? Well, the first thing you're going to want to do is make an energizing orb. It's a fairly simple recipe here, and you can plonk it down on the ground. One misconception is that you need power for it. You do not. This does not need any power to work. Not in the same sense that you're thinking anyway. This has no connection to power. However, we are going to set up nearby cables within a 9 by 9 radius of the energizing orb, and we're going to put these energizing rods on top. Again, to make the rods, it's really quite a simple recipe using some basic power materials. Now, I'm using some really good ones here, nitro, but I'm actually going to delete these because it's going to be a bit too quick for what I want to show you, to be honest. So we could put these on here, or even like this, as long as it's in a 9 by 9 radius. Then, let's say we want to make a furnator. We want to make the hardened one. You can see here we need hardened capacitors, which need energized steel. How do you make energized steel? Well, we energize with 10,000 forge energy, gold and iron together. Well, lucky for you, I've got some gold and iron already in my inventory, and I can just place by right-clicking the iron and the gold in like this. And you can actually see really quickly like that, the orbs will automatically just turn on and start basically energizing the item that we put in here. There are, of course, many ways to automate this with lots of other mods, but this tutorial specifically is just for the Powah mod, so I won't be going into that today. Do check out the mod tutorials on my channel, however, to see how else we could do that. Now, if you have got energizing rods that are not linked, you can shift right click on a wrench. A wrench is from, again, the Powah mod. So shift right click and it can go from config mode, linking mode to rotation mode. In here, we're putting it in linking mode. You can see when I come off of it, you can't see anything. And then when I go onto the wrench in linking mode, you can see what is linked here. I can right click this rod and see it says start linking. And then I can link it to this energizing orb. Maybe you've got a few other energizing orbs here. And we can again say right click to start linking and then link this one to this energizing orb here. And that is how you change these around. You can also hover over the rods to see how much energy they have stored within them, and these can upgrade as well to get higher and higher versions. There's quite a few things we can make in the energizing orb. Blue ice into dry ice, which you will need for cooling your reactor. Uranium ore into uranite. Energized steel. Blazing crystals, which are used again for the blazing upgrades. A charged snowball. Spirited crystals and nitro crystals. Nitro, by the way, is the best version for everything in the Powah mod, and as default it does take a nether star, blocks of redstone and blocks of blazing crystals, which again is these blazing crystals you can make here with blazing rods. The amount of forge energy you see here is how much the rods need to output to fully charge this item into the outputted item like the spirited crystal. And that is how you use the Energizing Orb for the Powah mod in Minecraft. Now that we're starting to get a little bit more advanced in the Powah mod, maybe we actually want to transfer around where we are accessing our power. And the way to do that is using an ender cell, not an energy cell, but an ender cell and an ender gate. If we put down this ender cell here, and we put it onto channel 3, so you can see in here there's loads of different channels. And these are basically energy channels in your ender network. So we put it onto channel 3. You can see the total being able to be stored is 0. What you're going to do is get an energy cell. Where are they? Let's say a hardened energy cell. Can you see that that hardened energy cell says 0 out of 10 million? If I shift click while on channel 3, you can see I've added 10 million to the ender cell. I've upgraded it by 10 million. If I take another energy cell and shift click, it's now 20 million. And that means this ender cell can now store 20 million on this channel, which is channel 3. Let's then take an ender gate. You can see the different gates have different inputs and outputs. The starter one can only input and output 500, and the maximum one is 1 million. We're going to use the hardened. And so we've got our energy cell here. We can just shift click that onto the energy cell, and that's basically like a wireless receiver. And if I put this onto channel 3, which had nothing in, remember this is on channel 3, you can now see the energy is starting to creep up because it is siphoning energy from this ender gate. So it's taking it onto channel 3. If I move this to channel 2, there's no energy because nothing is actually hooked up to channel 2. But on channel 3, we can see the energy going up. If I change this to channel 2, again it stops. And we can use this to wirelessly transfer around energy on our ender network. And it really is as simple as that. There's a few other cool items we can make. There's the player transmitter. The player transmitter is a block used to charge items wirelessly in a linked player inventory, including armor slots, etc. You do need to make a binding card or a dimensional binding card to use it, however. Which are these here? A binding card. So if we get a player transmitter, when I shift right click on the machine with the binding card, you can see it's gone from red to green and says binding card owner is me. Of course, we can put our binding card in here and that will basically turn it on. We will, however, need to actually give this power somehow using nearby cables, etc. There's also the energy hopper, and this is a really awesome item. The energy hopper is a block that's used to charge chargeable items inside an adjacent inventory. So you can put it next to a chest, like in this picture here, and it will charge whatever is in that chest. And then lastly, we have the energy discharger, which is a block used to drain energy out of charged items, and that will store it in an internal buffer, and that'll extract it into these pipes if you do connect it so. Then the grand finale of the Powah mod. This is the Reactor. It's actually one of my favorite reactors in all of Minecraft mods. You can see here it is a 3x4 structure, and simply you could just press it on the ground to build it. And can you see here it's saying not enough blocks, you need 35 more? You need to be holding 36 in your hand and it will automatically build itself. Otherwise you can go into creative and simply click it and it will build itself that way as well, only needing 1 block, needing 36 blocks in survival. And again, as usual, there are actually different parts. There's a starter, basic, hardened, blazing, niotic, spirited and nitro for different versions of the Powah mod, depending on how far into it you are. Now it's fully complete, we can right click it and we can see the GUI. Now this looks initially quite complex, but trust me, it's actually not. In this bottom left slot, we can put redstone, either blocks or just simple pieces of redstone, and this will slightly up the temperature of the reactor. The TLDR here is that the hotter the reactor is, the more energy it's going to create. And redstone makes it more efficient. We can also cool down the reactor with solid items like ice, and dry ice from the Powah mod itself is the best. You can see it's solid coolant. For this solid coolant to work, we are actually going to have to need to pump in some liquid coolant as well, in this case water. I'm using a different mod here to pump it into the side. We've got water in here, we've got our solid coolant. We can also put carbon in here, which is, of course, coal. I'm going to use blocks of coal up here. As you can see, carbon, it's adding, again, more temperature to the reactor. And lastly, to actually power the reactor, it's going to be uranite, which is made, again, in the Energizer here. And you can see here, the uranite is there ticking away with our coolants and our efficiencies of carbon and redstone to make power. Now, you may also see there's an auto mode on and off. The reactor will stop when it's full and start when it has less than 70% energy. So you could just tick this on, and basically when it gets full, it will turn off and stop wasting resources. When it goes below 70% of energy, it will then actually start up automatically again, meaning it's a really efficient way of making power in, of course, the Powah mod. Now, I do hope that you have enjoyed this full tutorial for the Powah mod. It's a really fun mod. It's not overly complex like some others, and it is quite beginner friendly. If you would consider it, I would really appreciate you checking out my Patreon, which really helps support the channel. And in the description and pinned comment of this video, I will also put some playlists, like my Minecraft playlist, and also things like Mechanism, etc. You can find on my channel. I do a lot of mod tutorials for you, and they're always kept as up to date as possible.